Hello everyone, this is AlzaboHD with a brand new video for you here today. In this video, I will be discussing all of the downloadable content Europa Universalis has to offer, and classifying them depending upon their usefulness and utility. Given that there is a large amount of DLC in EU4, this guide is specifically crafted for both new and veteran players. The goal of this guide is to help players decide which expansions to purchase, based on their perceived value. Although all expansions and DLC add content, some are more focused on regions and specific nations, while others have universal utility. In order to better visualize these categories, I have categorized all the DLC and expansions into 3 groups. These groups correspond to the optional, the useful, and the necessary downloadable content in-game. To this extent, I will briefly summarize the features present in each DLC and what makes them more or less useful in situational or universal contexts. For the first group, we will get started with the optional and situational DLCs, before moving on to the useful and necessary expansions later on in this video guide. The first optional DLC that we will cover is the Conquest of Paradise expansion. Notably, this DLC gives players the ability to play their campaigns with a procedurally generated random new world, which replaces North and South America. Additionally, Conquest of Paradise allows players to play as their colonial nations, expands mechanics for certain native tribes that allows them to migrate, and also unlocks support independence mechanic for nations that wish to find allies to help them in their fight for freedom. This final mechanic, however, is also available in the Eldorado DLC. For players that are uninterested in playing with the new world, this expansion does not offer very much. Consequently, I consider it optional. The second DLC we will cover is the Eldorado expansion. Eldorado allows players to create their own custom nations, complete with customizable idea sets, rulers, government types, and even flags and map colors. This DLC also unlocks reformation mechanics that provide substantial bonuses for the Mayan, Nahuatl, and Inti indigenous American religions. Other additions that this DLC offer include exploration and conquistador missions, American gold fleets, and the Treaty of Tordesillas mechanic that helps Catholic nations colonize colonial regions while keeping rival Catholic nations out. As mentioned previously, Eldorado also unlocks the support independence mechanic if you do not own Conquest of Paradise. While arguably more useful than Conquest of Paradise, Eldorado is optional but does provide great utility to players interested in making their own nations, or for players interested in playing with the 3 overhauled indigenous religions. The third optional DLC we will cover, Marin Ostrom, introduces a variety of mechanics that affect all aspects of gameplay. Most notably, Marin Ostrom introduces an historical timeline feature that allows you to watch time lapses of your finished and ongoing EU4 campaigns. Additionally, Marin Ostrom simplifies naval mechanics with automated missions, allows certain Mediterranean nations the ability to raid coasts for money and resources, unlocks the ability to rent mercenary armies, also known as condottieri, provides benefits to spy networks, and allows players to promote mercantilism at the cost of 100 diplomatic power. Outside of other minor mechanics, such as the ability to share maps with other nations, and the addition of trade leagues for merchant republics, Marin Ostrom is perfect for time-lapse YouTubers, and players who want to roleplay as Barbary pirates, but falls short of offering anything game-changing. Next up in our guide is Mandate of Heaven, an optional DLC with a distinctly East Asian flavor. This expansion notably introduces historical ages that give players unlockable splendor abilities that provide minor bonuses, and the ability to enter into golden eras for various benefits. What this expansion is best known for, though, is overhauling China with the new mandate mechanic. All neighboring countries that have Eastern religions are able to declare war on China with a brand new CB that allows them to annex huge portions of territory and seize the Dragon Throne for themselves. Please note that you shouldn't actually seize the Mandate of Heaven for yourself with this new CB, as it will provide you with horrendous penalties should you border non-tributary nations, a huge reason why this DLC is less useful than it should be. Other minor additions include a diplomatic macro builder interface to allow players easier access international relations, and additional options and abilities for the Japanese shogun and the various daimyo. The fifth optional DLC we will cover on this list is Third Rome. As the DLC title implies, Third Rome focuses on Muscovy, Eastern Slavic governments, and the Orthodox religion. The expansion offers you some of the largest and greatest bonuses as of yet seen in an EU4 expansion, if you are interested in this highly specific region. Among the Russian government mechanics Third Rome introduces is the powerful ability for Tsardoms to fabricate claims on entire states for only 50 spy network, greatly facilitating large-scale conquest. Additionally, Third Rome provides all Orthodox nations the ability to select between powerful icons and the ability to increase patriarchal authority via consecrating owned and court states. As if this wasn't already enough, The DLC buffs Mother Russia and her environs with highly disciplined Streltsy military units, new mission trees, and the ability to colonize Siberia with diplomatic power, ignoring colonist upkeep cost. If you like Eastern Europe, this expansion is incredibly useful, but it is still considered optional as it only affects a small area of the world map. The sixth and final optional DLC we will cover before moving on to more useful expansions is Rule Britannia. If you like England and want more flavor in missions, this expansion is crafted specifically for you. Rule Britannia introduces coal as a production boosting resource, an innovation mechanic that provides bonuses for being ahead on technology, and a naval doctrine mechanic that provides bonuses so minor you will probably never use them. In addition to these mechanics, the expansion unlocks the unique Christian religion of Anglicanism that has a functional similarity to Protestantism and that you can save up religious points, but differs in form, as you can spend your points on active abilities instead of passive bonuses. These active abilities include increasing stability, boosting mercantilism, and divorcing your wife like Henry VIII. Outside of other minor mechanics, like allowing you to boost institution spread among allies, and new music and unit models, Rule Britannia cements itself as an optional flavor pack that offers little in the way of value outside of the British Islands. Now that we have covered the optional expansions, we will move on to the more useful DLC that offer you more bang for your buck. The first useful expansion we will cover is Publica, a DLC that focuses on republics, but also provides you the incredibly useful mechanic of national focus. This mechanic is invaluable as it allows you to boost either admin, diplomatic, or military monarch power production by 2, at the expense of reducing the other categories by 1 each month. In practical terms, this provides players a way to adapt around rulers that might be terrible in a certain category, or to greatly benefit a player who might be behind in a certain technology group, allowing them to catch up. More minor additions include Dutch Republic factions, Merchant Republic factions, more events for republics, the introduction of lifelong dictatorships to republics with low republican tradition, and the introduction of the Polish-Lithuanian elective monarchy mechanic. Although this expansion might seem only useful for players interested in playing republics, the national focus mechanic alone is worth the purchase. The next useful DLC covered in our guide is Wealth of Nations. Tailored for players who are interested in maximizing their profit and invaluable for anyone who wants to build a viable trading economy, Wealth of Nations unlocks the ability to create trade company provinces in sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, and South, Southeast, and Eastern Asia. Trade company provinces boost production and trade power at the expense of lowered manpower and taxes, while also providing players extra merchants for each region they control a majority of trade in. Furthermore, trade company provinces do not increase yearly corruption like normal unstated territories, and are thus crucial for successful world conquest attempts following the recent changes to provincial corruption. Other mechanics that Wealth of Nations unlocks include allowing you to designate your trade capital to collect trade outside of your capital province, and bonuses to the Hindu and Reformed religion. The trade company mechanic by itself warrants the purchase of this DLC, and the other bonuses add icing to the cake. The next useful DLC we will cover in this guide is the Cossacks expansion. The Cossacks introduces incredibly useful diplomatic mechanics that allows players to promise land to allies for war without favors, allows players to set their attitudes towards AI nations, and even gives you the ability to mark provinces as areas of interest, so that AI war leaders will give you the territory that you want in peace deals. Other mechanics included with the Cossacks include new government forms for steppe hordes, a revamped Tingri religion mechanic that allows you to select between secondary religions for bonuses, and horde unity and raising, which allows you to burn down provinces for monarch power. Minor additions include unlocking native policies that allow colonizers more flexibility, new espionage mechanics, and the ability to restore original cultures to provinces. One of the main features of this DLC at its release was the estate mechanic, but as of patch 1.26, estates are free to everyone, and you don't need the DLC for this mechanic. Regardless, the Cossacks is incredibly useful for players looking to get more out of diplomacy, or for players interested in playing with horde governments. The fourth useful DLC on the list is Rights of Man. Rights of Man introduces many mechanics that are tailored towards making your leaders and rulers more unique, in a way similar to Crusader Kings 2. Notably, Rights of Man unlocks the Great Powers mechanic for nations that gives bonuses to the top 8 global nations that include extra power projection, absolutism, and the ability to intervene in wars and influence lesser nations for increased relations. The DLC is also incredibly useful as it allows you to abdicate old rulers, disinherit terrible heirs at the cost of prestige, and even allows you to debase currency, which gives you a large amount of ducats at the cost of increasing corruption. Additionally, Rights of Man adds flavorful mechanics to rulers, heirs, and leaders
that include positive and negative personality traits that can greatly impact your campaign. Rights of Man also unlocks fetishist and Coptic religious mechanics, allows you to set subject nation war behavior, and practically removes regency councils, as queen regents will allow you to declare war normally even without your heir coming of age. Overall, this expansion is useful no matter which nation or region you play in. I highly recommend purchasing it.
The fifth useful DLC we will cover in this guide is Cradle of Civilization, an expansion that overhauls military mechanics and the Middle Eastern region. Most notably, Cradle of Civilization introduces the army professionalism mechanic that allows you to drill and discipline your armies to increase their combat effectiveness. High army professionalism confers scaling bonuses, including increased shock and fire damage dealt, as well as improved siege ability. Likewise, the drilling army mechanic increases the combat effectiveness and movement speed of individual regiments. This effect degrades over time as the regiment is reinforced with fresh troops, however. Other mechanics that are included with the DLC include overhauled mechanics for the Islamic faiths, including Muslim schools that confer bonuses, new trade policies that allow you to propagate the Islamic religion in trade nodes, and new government forms in the Middle East and Iranian regions. Another useful addition to this DLC is the ability to use your missionaries in your vassal and subjects core states to facilitate religious spread. Whether you're looking to convert the world as a religious empire or to improve your army's effectiveness, Cradle of Civilization is a useful addition to any campaign. The last useful DLC we will look at before delving into the next category is the latest expansion to be released as of this video's recording, Dharma. This expansion is notable as it unlocks the government reform mechanic, which allows players to customize their empire over time with unlockable bonuses that allow you to change government type, introduce parliamentary reforms, increase state capacity, and confer bonuses to various estates. Another large component of this expansion focuses on the Indian subcontinent and introduces powerful mission trees for Indian nations, 5 new Indian estates, monsoon seasons, and the incredibly powerful assimilation mechanic for the Mughal Empire. Other mechanics include the ability to charter trade companies, which allows you to purchase territory in trade regions, and upgradable trade centers, which allows you to spend ducats to increase the efficiency of your empire's centers of trade. Overall, Dharma is worth purchasing if you're looking to reform your government with powerful bonuses, if you want to start in or conquer your way into South Asia, or if you want incredibly cool Indian elephant unit models. Now that all of the useful DLCs have been covered, it is time for us to focus on the most necessary expansions for EU4. The first necessary DLC we will review is the Art of War expansion, an absolutely essential addition that expands subject mechanics and introduces essential quality of life user interface improvements. The primary reason to pick up Art of War is for the numerous subject mechanics that it introduces. These include the ability to create client states to speed up late game conquest, the ability to declare war on behalf of your subjects' claims, the ability to transfer war province occupation to allies and subjects, and the ability to convert your vassals to marches, a subject type that supercharges the nation's military capabilities. Given that vassal feeding, the technique of expanding your subjects' territories before diplomatically annexing them later on, is so important to any successful campaign, the Art of War expansion is practically necessary, as it enables you to transfer provinces in war to your subject nations. Setting war objectives is another crucial feature of this expansion, as it allows you to designate provinces as priorities for your allies, vassals, and subject nations. Another important feature introduced in Art of War is the League War, a mechanic that unlocks religious warfare in the Holy Roman Empire following the Protestant Reformation. Overall, I'd highly recommend any player interested in EU4 to purchase this DLC. The final and unquestionably most necessary DLC we will cover in this guide is the Common Sense expansion. Why is Common Sense so necessary, you might ask? One word: development. The main addition of this DLC allows you to develop your own provinces, greatly increasing their effectiveness and enabling you to force institution spread. This allows you to make your empire substantially more powerful without territorial expansion, in effect, allowing you to play tall instead of wide. Development is all the more necessary for nations outside of continental Europe, where institutions are far less likely to appear. By investing heavily in province development, usually around 1,000 monarch points in total across 3 categories, you can force the most recent institution to appear and spread gradually from within your nation. Without this mechanic, the only way to increase development is through rare missions and events. If you intend on playing outside of Europe, you will effectively cripple yourself as you will lack the only effective way of spawning institutions and thus technological advancement. In addition to development, Common Sense unlocks government ranks, which confer bonuses like extra diplomats and reduced national focus cooldowns, parliamentary mechanics for constitutional governments, and religious mechanics for Protestant and Buddhist nations. Furthermore, Common Sense unlocks incredibly useful subject mechanics, such as allowing you to placate vassals and lower their liberty desire at the expense of prestige, or allowing you to force your colonial nations to declare war on neighboring colonies and territories. Because development is essential to almost every campaign, and because placating vassals is important to preventing independence wars, Common Sense is the one DLC I'd recommend and purchase before even considering the other expansions mentioned previously in this guide. That concludes my guide for downloadable content in EU4. Do you agree with the rating system of these expansions? Let me know in the comment box below. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a like or a comment, as these will really help the channel grow. If you would like more content like this in the future, feel free to subscribe to the channel for videos released every week. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.